Hi, everybody. Matt Lawton here, and this is the Astrological Winds channel. Going to take a look at the astrological weather report for the week of September 15th through the 21st, and it's a super busy week. Got some activity right away on Monday and Tuesday with Venus, Mars, and Chiron. Then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, Mercury changing signs and therefore getting involved with all the outer planets. Ditto with Venus on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then the massive new moon, second one in Virgo at 30 degrees in a kite pattern, and also a solar eclipse on Sunday. So, a lot to talk about today. Really quickly, the Astrological Winds channel is a free video blog that is on YouTube. If you like what you see and you have a YouTube account, I'd really like you to become a follower. And please don't forget to turn your notifications on when you do, or you will miss when the blog comes up. Also, it's a podcast too, a complete same audio version available on podcasts. Go to your podcast app and just type in Astrological Winds channel. You'll find it on a number of different podcasts. That can free you up to not be attached to having to see video, get to see it when you're listening to it while you're driving to work or whatever. Other ways to do it. Also, Astrological Winds channel does have a Instagram page. So if you have Instagram, please become a follower. And the link will show up in your newsreel. Sometimes I post some other stuff there too. And then you can always find the links for not only this current blog, but for blogs from weeks past at my website, www.astrologicalwinds.com. And that also has all my professional services, which is another great way to support me in the blog. When you're ready for a reading, check that out. I've had over 20 years experience as a professional. Also, I want everyone to remember, please pass the blog along. That's the way I get it to grow organically. So, if you have done it before and you found somebody else new recently that you think you'd like to check it out, please do it again. And remember, if you don't know astrology super well, don't get caught on the terms of the astrological terms you want to hear, what the interpretations are. I'm trying to give you a gift of some knowledge that you can work with this energy this week. And so a lot going on this week, and I'll have some more details on my stuff at the end. So I want to get right into this, and it starts on Monday, Tuesday. Today, Venus sextiles Mars, and at the same time, Venus is going to trine Chiron, which means Mars is going to oppose Chiron. So first off, that Venus sextile Mars today on Monday is just beautiful. I mean, this is beautiful for finding the balance between what is, known a lot of times as the battle of the sexes. This is a time where we can bring the yin yang energy into balance, the male female energy into balance, not only within ourselves, but more importantly, in relationships. So it has a lot of times has a lot to do with romantic and sexual energy. So if you're in a romantic relationship right now, this is going to be very stimulating for that. It's going to feel really, really good. It's going to bring it to new levels. But if you're not, this is even good for connecting with your friends, with your loved ones. It really can just bring a general friendliness, happiness, openness to things. So, but there is just a great sexual balance in romantic relationships. It's also brings up creative energy, and that can be within relationships too, or it can be within ourselves. There may be some creative opportunities that come up, and it definitely has an energy of wanting to go out and socialize more. And when we do, we attract people to us, especially people that are in our energy fields. But it's a thing where we want to be entertained. We want to have some fun. And sometimes, with Venus ruling money too, it can bring in creative opportunities too. Many times, financial opportunities too. Many times through our creativity. So then, the trine to Chiron is really sweet too. It just really adds to the energy and the sensitivity of in relationships of wanting to give. And so you can get a lot of healing out of this. There's a lot of positive energies that comes through with the Venus Chiron too. You can feel like you're getting the support you need. And when you get the support you need, then you're willing to give support too. So it's a really nice loop that creates. And there's a really genuine concern for others with this energy too. Like you really do, it's not some false concern or for some show. It's a very deep concern. So it's really good for creating all kinds of healing forms, through art or whatever you're doing. And it's great for all the healing arts themselves, like a great time to get a massage or something like that. So the Mars opposition shows to the Chiron, right? Shows that we can, that, I think what it's trying to show us here is, and it's a general theme, I think, for a lot of these times, is that can we still be ourselves within the context of relationships? And I believe, like with the right attitude, we can, that we can find balance with others in partnerships that can really motivate us, to be ourselves and yet still be very active in that partnership. Once again, the Mars is going to bring in a lot of sexual energy into this. So it's once again very valuable for people who are in romantic slash sexual relationships. Now, the Mars Chiron can have certain people feeling very triggered by their anger and by their pain, and it can come out through relationships. But I think with Venus involved in the sextile and trine, it will, even if that stuff comes up, you should be looking at it as an opportunity to act on and bring some healing, bring some peace, bring some soothing energy into the relationship. So, I think there is a little bit of a challenge there because certain people will be triggered, but there's also a time where we can show them, some healing, and we can do that for ourselves for sure if we're conscious and open to these opportunities that come up. All right. And so then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So both Mercury and Venus are changing signs this week, which means what I've been saying all year, those four outer planets at the beginning of their signs, it means they're going to aspect all those signs as they change. So starting with Mercury, which starts up on Wednesday and really goes through Friday with an opposition to the Saturn Neptune conjunction, and then goes into Libra right in the middle of that, and then trines both Uranus and Pluto. So it's in a grand trine, and it's actually Mercury's up here at the top here, and it's also in the same kite pattern that I'm going to talk about that the new moon is in. But I just think really, it starts off with the Mercury Neptune opposition again. Mercury opposite Neptune and Saturn again. And that can be really tough on the mind. I've been saying it a lot. This Saturn Neptune this year is really showing us like where our ideals, where what we really believe in, what we really want to see, what our greater vision is for ourselves and for all of everyone around us, and all of society, that, when it comes up against the shores of reality, it can be really battered, and it can be like painful, and it can be disappointing to our ideals. And so, like, a lot of the decisions that we based on our ideals may be crashing onto the shores of reality that are not cooperating. And so there can be a lot of confusion right now about where to move ahead. You can actually feel overstimulated in a negative kind of way, trying to figure that out, and then feel really stuck in trying to decide what to do. So this is actually not a good time to make a serious commitment or judgment or a decision or an agreement, because the information is confusing and it may be difficult to work with. There can be a lot of misunderstandings, and it can even shut down or withdraw a lot of our energy. It can feel really draining. It can feel difficult to stay positive in your mind with this opposition. There may be even some separations physically from others. There may be losses. You may get stuck into negative, fearful feedback loops, thinking patterns that are from the past. So you got to be really, 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 just careful. You want to try to discipline yourself here. Try to take the Saturn energy and maintain a focus. Otherwise your mind could really drift off. Um, I think, once again, a lot of this really just is having to do with like, okay, how committed are you to this, even when tough things come up. With the opposition, I will say this with Mercury, there are people you could communicate, reach out to that could help you process some of it and bring in some grounding. So, right in the middle of those two oppositions, Mercury will change signs and go into Libra. Okay. And then right away we'll trine Uranus and Neptune at the same time. So I think this is a time where it's going to help us actually. When Mercury goes into Libra, we slow down our decision making processes. We make sure we're looking at everything from every possible angle and viewpoint before we make a decision and move ahead. Now, at times, that can be frustrating to other people because they can see us as actually indecisive, but we're really acting out of our own best intentions to try to make sure that we're making the best decision, that it's not going to be upsetting, that it's an equal decision, that it creates some kind of balance is what we want to do. So it's very, when Mercury is in Libra the next 2 or 3 weeks, it's really good for any kind of diplomacy, for like any time of sitting down and hammering out agreements with this energy. Also, when Mercury is in Libra, it gives us the gift of creativity with our words. We can be very eloquent with in our conversations, in our speeches. We can be creative with words like poetry and creative writing, things like that. So this is like really an excellent time for any kind of creative output or communicating with others and trying to hammer out agreements. It really is a time where we're willing to look at the rough stuff and try to smooth it out and make some kind of compromise. We're living intellectually in a spirit of compromise. So that is really good. And then you get the trine to Uranus and Pluto, and it's forming a grand trine in air, right? So that there's ever a time for ingenious ideas to be flowing out naturally, this is it. This is a week where we can really work with them, where they so and what we do and work with them under a grand trine can go a long way. It can have a lot of rippling effect that continues for a long time. So you're going to probably get intuitive flashes that go and feed the intellect and then have some profound realizations, and that will bring up creative ideas that will bring change and transformation. That's what we want. The mind is very, very stimulated, and it can find new solutions to old problems that suddenly just pop up like, wow, like a bolt of lightning. And they come up as like a full package, like you've got the whole idea and you can see the impact that it can possibly have in the future, that you can take in this new information right now, this ingenious new ideas, and integrate it very deeply, understand where the parts fit in the puzzle. So this is really good for any kind of study, any kind of research, any kind of conversations and connections with others that bring you more information. They'll have an electric quality to them, a transformative energy to both parties that are involved. Will stimulate the minds and excite them, bring them into new frontiers, you know. We're very, very perceptive with this energy, very acute minds, very smart, willing to take on problems with a fresh approach, really get to the bottom of things, really willing to make changes in our own mind and psyche first and then bring them out. Really easy to focus the mind on what you want to. So we really want to use this energy. You know, we can see what the issues are and we can get some serious downloads and we can work in balance with it. And so I got to keep moving, guys. There's a lot to go on still. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, Venus is pretty much doing the same thing, but with different aspects to the planets. She's going to change signs. She's going to go into Virgo, a sign she does not like, a sign that we traditionally call the fall of Venus, right? And as she's doing that, she's going to have a bumpy quincunx with the Saturn Neptune conjunction. And right away will square Uranus. So, once again, a stressful aspect, and then another quincunx to Pluto. So, this one, unlike the Mercury one, this one's going to be trickier to work with. Relationships on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday are really going to be tested. Okay? And it shows basically that we have a very idealistic way of looking at relationships, and that right now we're all needing support. You know, we're needing it right now, and it's not easy to get. This can make you feel like, you know, you're sacrificing a lot of what you want, denying a lot of your own needs. And what that does is it shuts us down. This quincunx energy will shut us down. It'll get us quiet. It'll get us maybe even shy, even unsociable. You know, and then the other thing is it will attract people in our lives that can be very difficult to get along with, very like emotionally difficult to get along with. They may be distraught themselves or they may be dumping on you. They're trying to show us something, though. You know, they're trying to show us something that we need to learn about, and especially with Venus, something emotional that we may be blocking, you know, but they can be very disappointing. And you actually may realize you need to physically disassociate yourself with certain people, that you actually need to separate them. Anyone ultimately who we find that is too demanding, we're going to actually at least internally withdraw our love and attention from. And they can actually get like a cold hearted reaction from us if they keep pushing too far. They can back us into a corner and be like a badger all of a sudden and, like, you know, just boom, you know, attack. But, you know, a lot of times this shows too the Venus, Saturn, Neptune, a lot of issues with your family, relationship issues, problems with your family that may have been for a long time under the surface will come up now. And it's about having to make some serious adjustments to that, letting go of certain expectations in certain relationships that are just unreasonable. The person's just not going to be that way. And it could require us having to make the decision of physically separating ourselves from others. And then Venus going into Virgo is only going to feed this energy. I mean, the reason that Venus is in fall, a week's position when it's in Virgo, is that we believe in order to get love, we have to serve others, that we're not worthy of it just as who we are. And that can be a really dark place to be in. It can really put us into a judgmental frame of mind with others where we're actually end up driving those very same people we're trying to get that love from away from us, from being too judgmental. You know, so this is a big, big lesson for us. We should never feel that we have to sacrifice ourselves in order to get love from someone. If that is where you're at, if that's what you have to prove to someone in a relationship, then that probably is one of the people that you're needing to separate from, right? Um, but yeah, this is, a time when, the service thing makes us sacrifice too much of what we want. And all that shows when we're trying to get love from others by just giving of ourselves is that we not have perfected our love for ourselves yet, you guys, right? Just think about that we don't have enough self-worth for ourselves yet, and that's why we end up judging others and getting disappointed in them. So there's a lot of lessons to learn here about our own attitudes, about love, self-love, and like why we attract people into our lives that can be difficult, you know. So this is also a time, Venus, when it's in Virgo, when we can look at our environment around us and get it back into order. If it's like, getting shambly, it's time to get it back into order, get things neat, clean up, do a fall cleaning of your space is a great way to do this. Do some maintenance. But just remember, we're going to be very judgmental in relationships. So be very careful about what you say, because what you say could be like the ultimate thing that destroys. Words are very powerful, they create reality. So try not to be overly critical about your loved ones. Um, Venus in Virgo also gets us a really good sense of being conservative with our finances and money, which is probably a good thing right now for these times. I recommend following that. Then we get that square to Uranus. And I think, this is really what all this energy I just talked about is what leads up to this square Uranus, where we want to break away from people who we perceive are holding us back in any way. We can get very rebellious towards our loved ones, especially old relationships that we perceive are the ones that are blocking us, and therefore we seek out new people. We seek out people who are different. We want new experiences. We want some more excitement in our lives. And so like, we're just trying to bring some life back. But if we try to hang around with people that we feel are blocking us, we're going to end up getting very much probably sucked into arguments, disagreements with them, very choppy energy. But it will, if nothing else, blow things out into the open, and therefore see if you can from there bring back some order. Or is it that kind of thing where the blow up is like, oh, time for the separation? We can't, you know accept the changes that are going on. But that's what the Venus Uranus is really trying to teach us, that you have to accept changes. You have to be honest with that. And you have to be honest with yourself first about what you want. You could be the one that's causing a lot of the issues if you're trying to stay in a relationship that isn't really something that you honestly want. So be really careful with that. Now, the other thing is with Venus in and Uranus too, is it is, once we get to that point, we can be very flirtatious. We can seek out like, love affairs or alternative ways of having romance and relationships. So, but it is a day when, or a part of the week where we should seek out something new, do something new. And it's also a great time to expose yourself to alternative forms of art, and then be careful with your money. You can be very impulsive with money. And then the final quincunx is the one to Pluto. And this is showing, yeah, relationships are changing right now, and that we have to make adjustments to those changes. It makes us look really deeply into who we want to hang out with and who we don't want to hang out with, who we like and who we don't like. It gives us a clue too that, when difficult people come along, that, not only to move away from them, but that there's some lesson that they have for us that we need to integrate. And it likely has to do with some emotional needs that we have that are still hidden from us, that we're not really, allowing to come out yet. So this is really a time to assess relationships. And once again, if you're sensing that people are too possessive, too demanding, then they're likely the people you need to free yourself from. I really think this is a calling card altogether, you guys, to break away from codependent relationships. And it wants everyone to be acting as freely as they can be, to be sovereign, to be able to be themselves within the context of relationships. But it's very difficult because we're working on releasing a lot of old programming. And when we do that, it triggers a lot of emotions, right? And we have to filter those emotions. You don't want to dump them on people because that's what just makes it a mess. Filter through them. Be careful of just reacting blindly. Assess your moves before doing them, then release and let go. Be smart. All right, I really got to keep moving. I know a lot to do here. Sunday is this, the new moon, 30 degrees of Virgo. 13 new moons in a year, right? So every year there's one that comes in two signs. So this is the second Virgo new moon. We had one at 1 degree of Virgo last month. This is also a solar eclipse, okay? So our second eclipse of the second eclipse season. And remember, new moons are always new beginnings. So look at where 30 degrees Virgo in your chart is. That house is where you need to have a new beginning. This is a critical 30th degree Virgo new moon. If we have not learned our lessons, we're going to get really left behind, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be really sharp. So Virgo new moon wants security through having some book of rules, through having some set way of doing things. That is how it knows it's going to get the results that it wants. It has a procedure for everything. There is a right way and there is a wrong way. And so, therefore, this can be very judgmental energy again. It wants to have a method. And if it's out of that method, that's when we quickly fall into judgment. Now, critical degree, right? 30th degree, and the South Node, because it's eclipse season, is in Virgo too. And I really think this is telling us the South Node is what we need to move away from, right? This is really critical, you guys. It's telling people need to stop the judging of one another. Stop judging the ways that other people do things. That everybody has their own way of doing things. That there's not just one set of rules that's going to work for everyone. And if you believe that, all you're doing is continually dividing. And you're living in the past too. So you're blocking your own creativity and you're creating your own problems for yourself and anybody that you connect with. Instead, we should be using this new moon's energy to look at our own systems, look at our own procedures with a critical eye. Where are we allowing them to hold us back? Where can we use more discipline in what we're doing so that we can move forward? And then we've got the fact that it's in a grand aspect pattern called the kite. Do you guys see this kite here? There's the opposition, right? The new moon to Saturn, Neptune. Then we have a trine to Pluto, a trine to Uranus, and then a sextile going between them. So there's your kite. You see the kite there? Traditional kite. So the kite is a rare pattern. And it's an excellent pattern. It's actually considered a very lucky pattern. But we have a 30th degree new moon, we have an eclipse, and we have a kite. So it's like a triple whammy, this new moon. It is so potent. And this kite is showing us that we have some incredible talents that we can work with right now. It is the opportunity to use talents to resolve problems that we have right now. And once again, the kite shows us, just like Virgo energy, that if we're too focused on one thing, if we have a pattern that we're always using, that we're actually blocking our own natural talents and the opportunities that they can bring us. So think about that. It's the same thing. I can't stress how important this thing is. Like if we want to resolve a lot of our problems, the talent is there, but we may be blocking it ourselves because we're stuck to certain procedures. So here, the new moon has this opposition to Saturn and Neptune. And it can feel, like I said, very disheartened that its ideals are being blocked by reality, by authorities, by others, right? But we have to ask ourselves, is that because we're also stuck in a certain way of doing things that we can't seem to get out of, you know? And when we see these ideals not blending with reality well, are we going to shut down? Or is this just once again a great test to see that, do we really believe in this greater vision? So I really think it's like, it's asking us, are we going to commit and continue to commit through tough times, or are we going to just like, oh no, develop an inferiority complex, shut down, not be confident, look for some way to escape? And what does that do? All that does is make us feel very alone, very stuck on our own island, right? So, and so we have all that will do afterwards is bring up a lot of inner confusion, right? A lot of demoralizing experiences with others, a lot of playing the victim, a lot of feeling, oh, we're so limited with our choices, all that. And instead, what the kite is saying is we should be looking for opportunities to use our talent that we have, that we should be seeking out the things that get us excited emotionally, things that may be different from the rut that we find ourselves stuck in. These are the changes that you want to go for. These are the changes that you want to see, and add, to your own unique point of view, and bring in some very pleasant results if you can start working with your talents. They will start, life will start to respond to you with this kite, and it will start to go into a flow, and you'll have a lot of emotional conviction behind what we're doing. It'll trigger the opportunities to come up too, and therefore, show that, we're really serious. We're showing life and others that we're really serious about, our commitment to what we want to do and trying to find solutions. And the Uranus and Pluto can give us great perceptions, just like I talked about with the Mercury. Find new things that we can really focus in on. Find new solutions to old problems, transform the energy around us. This is a time where we should really value, each and every one of us, our own originality, our own independence, our own freedom, our own creativity, and pour that energy into what we want to work to, and be bold about it, be daring about it, throw yourselves into it, Don't limit yourselves. There's a lot of new discoveries that are waiting out there, but if we limit ourselves, we're never going to see them. Be brutally honest with yourself, and therefore you can be honest with others too. You can't be without being honest with yourself too. You can have some very, very powerful experiences under this energy that can reform your life for good, that can change your life for good, that can create new patterns. This energy is right up here. It's available right now at our fingertips this week, you guys. And it's just, you know, it can bring in so much power and strength through our experiences, through our connections. And then Mercury is actually ruling this new moon. And as I said, it's in that same kite pattern, right? So it's got like it is connecting the intellect into this too, and it's really just getting really, really stimulated. It's able to try to find some balance, to make some good judgments. It can really throw itself into what it's learning now from this new moon and be really honest and use that energy to push forward, to reform some of the patterns that we have in our mind and make them new. You know, to bring like some balance into that stuff too. And then it's an eclipse too, right? And so this eclipse, like every eclipse, it's usually a major turning point for many people in their lives. And when I say a turning point, it's something like, yeah, your life is going down a new path and you're not going back to your old path. Your life is never going to be the same. So there can be some very big events that hit us personally or hit us like the whole world, like natural disasters or man-made events that could change the lives of very many people in one fell swoop. So usually eclipses change, people's lives. I'd say at least a quarter of people go through a big transformation when there's an eclipse. So, this is all just a major, major shift of an energy going on here. And when you look at this eclipse, every eclipse, has a life cycle of about 3,000 years or so. And this one is a new one. This eclipse was born in 1917. It's called Saros Series number 9, New South. And it starts like just since it's a new one, it's just like a new moon. It's at the very beginning of its cycle. So it's a very important seeding one. It's like the birth chart for this eclipse actually shows a lot of issues may come up for us having to do with our loved ones, or having to do with our health, or having to do with the ways we communicate, or some kind of paperwork that we need to take care of. That has a lot of responsibility connected to it. It's like eclipses are like a destiny point. So it can be some long awaited responsibility with somebody that, with a loved one or with your health or with communications or with like, just some kind of paperwork issue that you need to deal with. It's, something that's fateful. And when you think about the North Node in Pisces, and that's the Dharma or destiny point of the eclipse, this is where we should be heading. And that's trying to find out what we do have in common with others, what beliefs we do share with others, and to create a community around that and to get out of the old beliefs and patterns that are so highly critical and judgmental and be more open and receptive to others and what we can share with others. So I really think, once again, the whole lesson of this eclipse is like, first off, if you have ideals and the world is being difficult with them, to not give up. That if you can keep pushing forward, you can break through to the next level. And at that level, you're going to find talents that you have, maybe you're aware of, or they were latent and now they're going to be triggered, and they can be useful for bringing those ideals in then. And then once you do that, it can create opportunities in the real world for it to be so. That's what Mercury wants to. And then, like I said, the other big lesson this week is with relationships and really trying to sort through who's good for you, who's not good for you, who do I need to work with changing. All right, you guys, that's what I got for this week. Next week, let's see, Mars is going to go into Scorpio next week, you guys, and the sun is going to go into Libra, of course. So Mars is going to be the star of our show next week, and that's great. Mars going to Scorpio is a sign that it rules, so it's comfortable there. So that's really good. And so that'll be the main thing I'm talking about. We'll talk about that sun into Libra too, which means what? It's the equinox, right? So we're going to be going into the fall in the northern hemisphere and into the spring in the southern hemisphere. Okay, this is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. I really need you to pass the link along right now to somebody else for all the work I just did. Please pay it forward. If you'd like to give a currency donation to the blog, it does cost me money to actually do this for you guys every month. So my Cash App is $ Matthew with two T's Lawton, Lauten, Venmo at Matthew, two T's hyphen Lawton, Lauten, hyphens in the middle. No amount is too small, you guys. $5 or whatever definitely helps. Best way you can help me out, though, is when you need a reading, and I know you all do. You should be having one every year at least. And I sure hope that if you're watching this blog, you've had a professional astrologer do your chart by now, because that's the first thing you should be doing, or at least as soon as you have the money, you should be doing it. Buy so many other things with our money that come and go. Our chart never leaves us. It's the best investment in yourself you could possibly make. And if it happens to be your birthday month and you want a natal chart reading, or your predictive, or both, I will give you 10% off. But check my website out at www.astrologicalwinds.com. Not only find the links to the blogs there, but my menu for all my professional services. The pricing is there. If you can put, if you're having a little bit of struggle with the finances, if you can put half up and pay off the rest in the next month or two, I can work with you on that. And also, if you have a group that's looking for a lecture, workshop, class, things like that, there is also a menu for that. If you're a student, I have beginner classes on podcasts, looking for beginner students to do a live class with, maybe 2-3 times a month. So, check me out. My contact's on the website, or you can email me at matthuey823@gmail.com. Don't be shy, you guys. Any questions you need to ask me about any of that stuff, it's not a commitment. I really want to help you out, or anybody else out. Been doing it for years, and it's just so great for the clients, and just really, when you're going through hard times, or just knowing the energies that you work with in your chart, make your life so much more harmonious, so much more self-empowering. So I'd love to do that for you. Anyway, I need to sign off. I'll see you all next week. And this is the Astrological Winds channel, Matt Law, and I'll see you then.